A woman in rags. Just dropped the champion in 7 seconds. No warm-up, no trash talk, just one silent kick. And the room died. But here's what nobody told you. She was once the undefeated queen of military kickboxing. And she vanished. Without a word, after rejecting something every fighter fears to say no to. They mocked her. Called her grandma. Bet beers she wouldn't last 10 seconds. The guy she just knocked out? He laughed in her face 5 minutes ago, and now? He's the one staring at the ceiling, gasping for breath. Don't scroll. Because what happens next? Will flip everything you think you know about power, silence, and what it means to truly fight. Comment chills if her silence hit harder than the punch. Tag someone who needs to see this. And if you've ever been underestimated, this story is your revenge. The gym smelled of sweat, blood, and ego. It wasn't a place for quiet people. Not for the broken, not for the forgotten. This was Iron Pit, Detroit's most ruthless underground training ground, where male fighters with chipped teeth and bruised pride came to prove they were still kings in a world that kept dethroning them. So when she walked in, small, thin, wrapped in a faded army hoodie and sneakers with the soles peeling off, nobody paused. At first, she didn't talk, didn't look anyone in the eye. She walked like someone who'd seen real fire but refused to speak of it. She moved to the side wall, placed her duffel on the floor, and started wrapping her hands with silent precision. Then Marcus saw her. Marcus, the Hammer Thompson, 245 pounds of muscle, a jawline sculpted by God and steroids, the reigning king of Iron Pit. He was sparring in the center ring when she caught his eye. He stopped mid-punch and burst out laughing, loud enough to turn every head. Yo, who brought their auntie in here? Laughter. Crude. Instant. Viral. Phones came out. Cameras rolled. She lost her summon. She trying to do yoga in a fight. Club? Bet she came to ask if we seen her cat. But she kept rapping, slow, tight, deliberate. It was that stillness, the kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't rise to the bait, that made them uneasy. But egos talk louder than instincts, and Iron Pit was no place for reverence. All right, Grandma, Marcus called again, stepping out the ring. You want to stretch? Cool. But this here's for fighters, not whatever the hell you are. She raised her eyes just once, dark, steady, not afraid, worse, unimpressed. I want a round, she said. The laughter died too fast. What? I want 1 round with your best. People hooted. One guy actually fell off the bench laughing. But Marcus? He grinned like a wolf offered raw meat. You want me? He said, hand on chest. Aw, sweetie, that's adorable. You, sure you don't want to fight my shadow first? She just stared, didn't blink. A trainer tried to intervene. Look, ma'am, I signed the waiver. She held up the form. Silence hit the gym like a falling pipe. She wasn't kidding. Marcus rolled his eyes. You got a death wish, fine. But don't cry when I break your ribs. The room buzzed, phones live-streamed, bets were made. A girl in pink tights whispered, she's gonna die, and clicked record. But she wasn't afraid. She stepped into the ring with the same calm you'd wear walking into church. No bounce, no bravado, just purpose. Marcus cracked his knuckles. 10 seconds, he said. Tops. And then the bell rang. 10 seconds, that's all Marcus gave her. The crowd around the ring was thick now. Shoulders pressed, arms folded, phones raised like 1,000 little judges waiting to execute. The smell of sweat mixed with the sharp edge of cruelty. That specific kind of excitement only seen when a mob smells blood. But she didn't flinch. Elena Ramirez, still unnamed to them, stood barefoot on the mat, her stance loose but grounded, arms lowered, chin slightly tucked. She didn't do the usual bounce. Didn't circle. Didn't even blink as Marcus raised his gloves and began the dance. All right, he grinned, showboating, stepping side to side like a lion warming up for slaughter. Try not to blink, Grandma. The first punch came fast, straight jab aimed, right between the eyes. She wasn't there. Marcus blinked. Her head had moved, just barely off-center, his glove slicing the air. Snickers erupted. Yo, she ducked that? Second swing. A right hook this time, nothing but air again. She didn't retreat. She slid like water poured between his punches. No drama, no waste. Marcus's smile thinned. He surged forward with a flurry, trying to overwhelm her with size, speed, and brute weight. A textbook combo. A guaranteed knockout. She twisted at the last second, stepped inward, and his arm skimmed past her cheek. He stumbled half a step forward, off balance. That's when the room changed. Something about the way she moved. Not flashy, not pretty, but exact. Like her body had memorized every angle, like every reaction was drilled into bone. She wasn't fighting to prove. She was fighting. Like she'd done this 1,000 times and with lives on the line. "Yo, what the hell?" a voice murmured. Marcus growled. "Lucky bitch." He launched a knee to the gut. Thud. The sound was sickening, but not from contact. She had caught his leg, caught it, with one arm, and now? Now she looked up at him. Eyes narrowed. Not angry, measured. One breath, then she spun. In a flash, her heel snapped around in a perfect arc, momentum building like a whip. Marcus saw the foot an instant before it crashed into the side of his temple. Crack, a sound like splitting wood. And then, silence. Marcus hit the floor like a felled tree, arms wide, eyes blank, out cold. No twitch, no groan, just silence. The kind of silence that fills the room when reality breaks. People didn't speak. Phones stopped recording, hands too frozen to tap the screen. A guy in the corner gasped. "No way. That ain't real. That ain't..." "She just one-kicked Marcus," someone whispered, like a confession. The gym owner staggered forward, mouth open. "Who the hell is she?" She didn't answer. Elena walked over, crouched, and gently placed Marcus's mouthguard on the mat beside him. Then stood. Looked at the crowd. Not a word, not a boast, just presence. And that silence. It screamed louder than any fight ever had. A few stepped back. Someone whispered, "She's military. Gotta be." "Yo, rewind that," a girl said, pulling up the recording. "Rewind. No, look how clean that was." "Bro," another murmured. "That ain't no civilian. That was surgical." And then, one of the older trainers, white-haired and scarred, stepped forward. His hand trembled as he pointed. "Is your name Elena?" She looked at him, he gasped. "Elena Ramirez from Camp Lejeune?" A gasp rippled through the room, because the name wasn't just familiar, it was legend. And until this moment, they thought she was just a story. The silence cracked. "Wait, Elena Ramirez?" A guy near the punching bags almost dropped his phone. "Like, the Ramirez?" A girl whispered. "I thought she died." Another corrected. "Nah, they said she vanished. After refusing some underground thing. I thought that was just myth." And there she stood, alive, solid, still barefoot, still silent. Elena glanced once at the old trainer, his eyes wide with something between guilt and reverence. "I saw you fight in Baghdad," he murmured. "Saw. You win with 3 broken ribs. You walked through fire." The room started buzzing, not from noise, but realization. Every fighter in Iron Pit had heard the rumors. A woman, unbeaten in 47 official bouts, never knocked down, never showboated. They said she could read your rhythm like music and break it like a bad habit. And then one day she quit, just walked away from the sport. No retirement match, no media, nothing. Whispers claimed she turned down an offer, millions, for an underground fighting ring that traded wins for silence. When she refused, her name was wiped from sponsorships, her records lost, her face vanished from posters. She became a ghost until now. Marcus still hadn't moved. The gym owner finally spoke. You're her." Elena just nodded once, then turned to the room. "I didn't come here for applause," she said quietly. "I came here to remind you, real fighting isn't about noise, or money, or who barks louder." She looked down at Marcus. "It's about knowing who you are, and what you'll never bow to." Her voice wasn't loud, but it landed like thunder. The gym was still frozen when a young man, barely out of high school, gloves still on, stepped forward. "Will you teach me?" His voice cracked with something most fighters forget. Humility. Another added, "Me too." Then a third. "Please." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Even though I'm just a grandma?" Murmurs. Eyes dropped. Someone in the back said, "We were wrong." The old trainer, Jack, stepped beside her. "Hell, I'd train under her all over again. You boys got lucky." And just like that, the energy shifted. But not for everyone. A door slammed. Another fighter, older than Marcus, came storming forward. Reed, the gym's former champ, now running a fight club in another borough. Scarred knuckles. Permanent sneer. "This is bull," he snarled. "She thinks one kick makes her queen again?" Elena looked at him. "Still running those illegal bouts?" Reed's eyes narrowed. "You ruined a whole generation," she said. Calmly. "Lied to kids, promised fame if they bled in silence. Some of them didn't walk away." Reed clenched his fists. "Do you think I'm scared of you?" "No," she said. "I think you're scared of truth." Then she stepped forward. "I'll give you the round you always wanted," she said. "Right here, in front of them." Jack protested. "Elena, you don't have to." She held up one hand. "I do." Reed cracked his neck, ripped off his hoodie, and climbed in. "Let's see if Grandma's still got it." The gym held its breath. The bell rang. Reed was faster than Marcus, meaner, less brute force, more street brawler. His first punch grazed her cheekbone, but she didn't blink. Instead, she let him come. Let him flurry, hiss, curse, until he made the mistake they all made. He overcommitted. Elena slipped inside his swing and landed a single elbow to his ribs, sharp, short, and surgical. Then a spinning heel kick that caught his shoulder, spun him half-circle, and before he could reorient, her foot swept under his stance. Reed hit the mat like a slab of meat, gasps, a cry. Then dead silence. Elena stood over him. "You sold fights," she said. "I lived them." She walked to the ropes, stepped out of the ring, and for the first time, smiled. But not the smile of victory. The smile of release. Fighters were crowding. Her now. Not to praise, but to learn. Not one phone was recording anymore because for the first time everyone understood. Some things are too real to edit. Reed lay on the mat, wheezing. No one helped him up, not because they didn't want to, but because they couldn't look away from her. Elena Ramirez, once dismissed as a nobody in ragged shoes, now stood like a quiet storm that had passed through. And left everything changed. She didn't speak, didn't raise her fists, didn't gloat. She just stood there. And the silence? It was suffocating, not the silence of awkwardness, the silence of reckoning. Marcus finally stirred. Groaning, he sat up slowly, holding the side of his head. The memory of her kick written in the tremble of his hands. A man who used to roar in victory now looked small. He turned toward her. "I was wrong," he said, voice low, shaky. She looked at him, neutral, unreadable. "I deserved that," he added. But can I learn from you?" It wasn't just an apology, it was a surrender, and that broke the last wall. One by one, the other fighters stepped forward, the loudest mouths from earlier, the smirking ones, the phone recording, bet placing, trash-talking boys who had built their image around dominance. Now they were students. "I laughed when you walked in," one of them admitted. "But the way you fought, it was like watching math solve violence," another nodded. "You didn't just beat them, you disassembled them." Jack, the old trainer, turned to her. "You still got the cleanest mechanics I've ever seen, but more than that, you made them listen." Without saying a word, Elena finally spoke, calm, sharp. "I didn't want to fight today. That stopped them. I came because I needed to stand in a room full of noise and not flinch. Because the world won't stop mocking people like me. People who don't fit your posters, who wear silence instead of tattoos, who walk instead of brag." She paced slowly in front of the ring, her voice steady, almost quiet, but each word sank like stone into water. "Your strength? It's nothing without direction. Your bodies? Weapons without purpose. You think respect is earned through knockouts?" Paused, looked each of them dead in the eye. Real power is knowing who you are and when the world calls you weak. A murmur rippled through them. She continued, I was offered $500,000 to throw a fight. They said no one would know, but I would have known, and that's why I disappeared. People listened like they'd never heard a fighter speak like this. No roaring, no show, just truth. They erased me, called me difficult, uncoachable, said, I had no loyalty. Her voice dropped lower. I stayed loyal. To myself, the gym owner approached, his face unreadable. Elena, he said, you don't owe us anything, but if there's any chance you'd help rebuild this place, not as a fighter, but as a teacher, I'll clear the schedule. Put your name back on the wall where it belongs. She looked up at the wall, bare, concrete, blank. I don't need a name on the wall. A pause, but I'll teach. Cheers didn't erupt, instead. Applause. Slow. Genuine. Not the hollow clap of victory, the steady rhythm of respect. From the back of the room, a young girl, quiet, 12 maybe, stepped forward. She'd been watching the whole time, holding gloves too big for her wrists. She looked up at Elena. Will you teach me how to be like that? Elena crouched, leveled their eyes. No, she said gently. I'll teach you how to be you, strong, silent, and unshakable. The girl smiled, and suddenly, everything was different. The fighters cleaned up their gear differently that day. Not with ego, not with swagger, but with reverence. With understanding, because they hadn't just seen a knockout, they'd witnessed the collapse of their assumptions and the rise of something rarer than talent, humility. Weeks passed. The Iron Pit changed, subtly at first. Less shouting, less chest thumping, more listening. New posters went up, not with faces, with principles. Discipline over hype. Silence isn't weakness. Train like she's watching. No one said her name out loud at first, not because they forgot, but because it meant more when whispered. Elena Ramirez wasn't a fighter now. She was a presence. She took the early morning slot when the gym was empty, the city still cold. Those who were serious came, no egos, no bravado, just sweat, learning, and the silence between breaths. The first week she trained 5, by the third, 30. By the second month her class had a wait list, but she didn't change pace, didn't talk more, didn't shout, didn't mark it. She taught like she fought, precise, minimal, unforgettable. She never said, "You're not good enough." She only asked, "Do you know why you moved like that?" And her students, young and old, women and men, learned not just to fight, but to observe, to breathe before reacting, to know themselves before throwing fists. Marcus became her assistant. He no longer cared about belts or titles. His sparring became cleaner, sharper, quieter. Reed. He never returned. Some said he left the city. Others heard whispers that his fight club folded after sponsors pulled out. Maybe he saw something in her eyes that day, something he couldn't shake. And the little girl? Her name was Ava. She became Elena's shadow, quick, sharp, silent. By the time she turned 13, she was outmaneuvering boys twice her size. One night after class, Ava asked, "Will I ever be as strong as you?" Elena looked at her, sweat on her brow, knuckles red, heart on fire. "You already are," she said. It wasn't a compliment. It was truth. The media caught on eventually. A small write-up in a local paper turned viral after someone found an old military clip of Elena's championship bout. Silent Storm returns trended for a week, journalists called. TV offers poured. They refused them all, except one. A single sit-down interview, no studio, no lights. Just her and a handheld recorder. They asked, "What do you want people to remember about you?" She paused, then said, "That I walked into a room where no one believed I belonged. And I didn't raise my voice, I just waited for the moment they had to listen." That quote now hangs in the center of Iron Pit, right under a grainy black and white photo of her. The moment her heel met Marcus's jaw, his body still airborne. But it's not the photo people stop to stare at, it's the silence that follows. Because every fighter that walks through Iron Pit's doors now knows. They're training in the house that humility rebuilt. And somewhere, Every morning, Elena still shows up. Same hoodie. Same worn shoes. Same calm. But now, when she walks in, everyone stands up. Not out of fear, not out of awe, but out of respect. The kind you can't buy, can't demand, the kind you earn in silence. If you've ever walked into a room where you weren't welcomed, if you've ever been judged by your silence, your age, your clothes, or your past, then this story was written for you. Because strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits, endures, and speaks only when the room is ready to hear. Share this if you've ever been underestimated. Tag someone who needs to remember their worth. And remember, you don't need to fight for the spotlight. Just stand where you are and let the truth shine through you.